Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association. Missouri produces wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details on the variety of products made in the state are at choosewood.com.
We hope you enjoy listening to this podcast of St. Louis on the Air, brought to you by University College at Washington University. With undergraduate and graduate programs, part-time, evening, and online. University College at Washington University, offering world-class education within reach.
Welcome to St. Louis on the Air. I'm Don Marsh. Over the past few months, we've been talking with Jossalyn Larson as she has been dealing with diagnosis and treatment for breast cancer. She's been very open about what she's been going through. We asked her if she'd be willing to share the experience with us and you. It's her belief and ours that what she has to say and how she feels would be helpful to other cancer patients, their families, and their loved ones. She joins me in studio. We know Jossalyn's story because her husband, John, is operations manager here at St. Louis Public Radio. He is also with us in studio. Happy New Year to you both.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Don.
And a belated happy birthday to you, Jossalyn. I know you had number 36, may I say it, just a few days ago?
Absolutely. I believe it's 37, but I've lost count.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I was trying to help out there.
It's between 37 and 21. I can't remember.
Closer to 21.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to see you. You look great.
Thank you.
How do you keep up with all that you're going through these days? I mean, you're always, every time I see you, you're smiling, you're upbeat, and it's really quite remarkable to see.
Well, it's been nice because I've been out of chemo now for a few weeks, so I've been feeling a lot better. I've been getting my energy back. I'm not altogether there, but then again, I never really was altogether there. But, part of what helps is that just because you have a diagnosis like this, life doesn't stop. So our kids still need us. My, job still needs me. Our parents still need us. So life continues on, and the diagnosis is just something that we get to maneuver around now.
Well, let's just backtrack a little bit for folks who aren't familiar with the story. When were you diagnosed, and what sort of treatment have you been undergoing?
So I was diagnosed in late May, and I've just completed about 21 weeks of chemotherapy. I was on a really intense chemotherapy drug at first that I took every 2 weeks, and then I took a once-a-week chemotherapy drug after that. I've been done with that for 4 weeks now, something like that. And next up is surgery. I actually have my surgery January 9th. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Imminent.
Yes.
John, what has this been like for you?
It's been a learning experience, I'll tell you that, and it helps me put things into perspective, good and bad. So there's times where I feel a little sad and pessimistic that I might lose my partner, because that is part of the equation. It's a life-threatening illness. But then there's there's the optimistic, joyful side that, we're living right in the moment, and our relationship has changed for the better. It was already great, but it really has changed for the better. We treat each moment like it's very precious.
How about the kids? How are they dealing with it?
The kids are doing a lot better. We thought our youngest, Miles, was really had his head wrapped around it. And, he was with me at all of our chemotherapy sessions when he wasn't in school, of course.
How old is Miles?
Miles is 14. But we recently learned actually that he was masking a lot of fear and concern and sadness over the diagnosis by being so involved. So that is something that we didn't really discover until a series of events happened, and we realized that that was actually something that he was hiding. So it's good that it's out in the open now. But otherwise, it's become kind of the new normal now. Our oldest son couldn't remember whether I ever had eyebrows. So,
yeah, of course, we have to point out you did lose your hair as a result of the treatment you were undergoing.
Yeah, but it's growing back now.
Starting to grow back now. Yeah. I must have as much as you, Don.
No, I was going to say, how do you grow hair? I'd like any information you can give me on how to do that would be more than welcome indeed. How about other life-altering events? Have there been any? I mean, has your life really been dramatically changed aside from the obvious? in terms of routine? Are you still teaching? What's day-to-day life like?
Well, I took some time off while I was going through chemotherapy because, I mean, anybody who works full-time and goes through chemotherapy is the VIP. I mean, I couldn't imagine having to go through that. But I'm back in teaching this coming semester. I'll be teaching online, so I still have radiation to go. I'd say that the biggest shift for me has been that my priorities have changed. And I'm less fearful now. And what that has done for me is I didn't think I was holding on to any kind of grudges or any kind of, old bad feelings. But all of that came to light, like, yeah, actually, I do have some unfinished business in these different places in my life. So I've wanted to take those on and to alleviate those in a way that I wouldn't have had to if I didn't have the diagnosis. And then I also have my stepfather is currently he's diabetic and he's going through some difficult issues now. He just lost a leg to the disease.
Oh, wow.
And so he and I have gotten really close because he's dealing with an amputation and I'm looking down the barrel of an amputation. So we've gotten very close that way too, and we've gotten to know each other on a new level, which is really kind of neat.
John, how about your life? How has it changed through this?
Well, in a lot of ways for the better. When you're a caretaker for someone that you love so much, you forget about maybe some of the, or at least I do. I forgot about some of the things that I was hanging on to or obsessing about or worrying about things that are undone. But my focus has been on Jossie and making her day-to-day more comfortable and work. It made me want to work extra hard. So I'm seeing a lot of positives. Now the negatives are, I still have to consider, the negative side or the downside of this whole scenario, and that's pretty scary stuff.
What sort of advice would you have for men who may be going through the same thing?
Well, there are great resources online. So I spend a lot of my time going to Siteman's site, Washington University site, cancer.org, and just, educating myself on what Jossie had, reading stories about people who have had it, caretakers who have been with folks that have had it. My advice would be have some improv to it, be fluid about it, because it really does change minute to minute. Looking at Jossie in the eye when she was going through the roughest part of the chemo, and working hard to make sure my face didn't contort into that "oh my God" face, because I was really concerned and worried. It helped me certainly become much more empathetic and conscientious towards Jossie. So I trained my face to be that, everything's going to be okay face, and then it started to work on me too. I started to feel like things were going to be okay.
See, this is all new information to me. I didn't know that he was putting on a face for me. Yeah, I just thought I was tough, man.
Oh man, this first chemo that she did for the every other week was just rough stuff, and I've never seen her more sick and I would say feeble almost. I mean, she was just doubled over and wasn't herself at all. There were extended periods of time when she would be sleeping, and I had a lot of reflection time during that period as well. I didn't think things were going to get better, just seeing what this chemo was doing to her. But sure enough, the second drug that you're on, or that you were on, that was every week, was much more mild. Still was rough, but like you said, Don, she's optimistic. She wakes up happy, even on chemo. And I think that did a lot to help me too.
Jossalyn, what advice would you have for women who are facing the same kind of situation that you're in?
The best advice that I've been given was just to maintain that optimistic demeanor. Attitude is everything. And this is something that I started to develop kind of a tribe, my own little tribe of people on Monday mornings, and because we would all get together for chemo, and in fact we were just out to lunch, and I ran into somebody who was a part of my Monday morning chemo tribe, and we hugged and celebrated, and but the best advice that I was given was just to maintain that positive spirit, smile when it's hard to smile, and during one of our earlier conversations, you brought up my faith and how my faith has helped me through this. And I think the one piece of Christian teaching that I kept reflecting on was there's a moment where Christ says, look, if you're fasting, wash your face so people don't know that you're fasting. If you're sick, powder your cheeks so people don't know, And I did a little bit of that. My mother, and of course my mother's New Jersey kind of version of that is make sure you're always doing your makeup and wear the heels even if you don't feel like it, So kind of putting myself on that way, just as John was saying, eventually, that the emotion became real.
We all have a New Jersey connection, so I
Yeah.
get exactly what you're talking about. Well, let's talk about the surgery, if you don't mind.
Sure.
What exactly is going to be involved?
So I was a candidate for a lumpectomy, which means my tumor, because of my chemotherapy, my tumor shrunk to about a third of its original size.
Which is obviously good.
It's good. Yeah, very good. So I was a candidate for a lumpectomy in which they could have just gone in, taken out the area where the tumor was, and then test it, and then hope that they got it all out. But I opted for a bilateral mastectomy, so a double mastectomy instead. And I made that decision. I went back and forth every day, but I eventually made that decision because I am still, in the scheme of things, young, and I am looking ahead at potential for recurrence. And I know that double mastectomy doesn't take all of the tissue out, so I still have to go through radiation after this. But they're going to go in and they're going to take out all of the material, the breast tissue, and then they're going to give me implants. And some people have to do spacers and then get implants later, but luckily my surgeon and my plastic surgeon have agreed that they can go in and they can give me implants immediately, which is going to go over my muscle. Sometimes they put it under the muscle, but this time they're going to put it over the muscle. And then they're actually going to take like a cadaver skin and put it over. Creepy, right? They're going to put it over the implant and then eventually cover it with my breast, and I'm in a position where I can keep most of my skin and my breast skin and nipple and that sort of thing. So
Psychologically, how do you feel about that?
I thought it was okay. But so much time had gone by between my last chemotherapy and this impending surgery coming up next week that I'd almost forgotten for a moment that I still have cancer. And it wasn't until yesterday, actually, I got a call from the anesthesiologist's office, and they had to go through their questions like, have you fallen lately, or what medications are you on? And then as I was answering those questions, it all of a sudden started to become more and more real that this is really going to happen. And it is, on the one hand, I'm like, sweet, free boob job, who gets mad about that? but on the other hand, it's a part of me that's, that served me pretty well, I'll say. I landed a pretty good husband, I'll say that. But, and that's going to be gone. And so that's I did break down last night because it did remind me that this is still something that we are going to have to be thinking about for the rest of our life. I mean, my implants will only last for a good 15, 20 years, and then I'll have to go back for another.
Do it again.
Yeah.
John, how are you taking all of this, that part of it?
I just want her to be well. That's really the focus. And I'm not attached like she is to her own body. And so whatever keeps her well, and I'm glad that they can do the mastectomy and the implants at the same time, so there doesn't have to be two different surgeries. I think that's really key. But, just walking into this with zero experience, there's just a lot they don't tell you about side effects and what to expect down the line. There's some general things they tell you, but there's some stuff that we've learned. Let's talk about sex. Can we talk about sex, Don? Part of we'll go into this, part of the side effect of chemotherapy is it goes after all of the fast-growing tissues, which means, couples have to be very careful and then abstain for very long periods of time because of it. and it wasn't a problem, but I can tell that if our relationship wasn't as strong as it was, I could see, that becoming conflict in a way. So I would say to, the supporter, if I could speak to those folks, is that, you have to be prepared and you really have to work hard on the relationship to make sure that these side effects don't get in the way of healing, both physically and emotionally.
You're in the right town for this kind of treatment, aren't you? I mean, you're working through Siteman, obviously.
Yes.
And the reputation at Siteman is
fantastic.
Is absolutely fantastic. Jossalyn, what happens after the surgery? How long will you be in the hospital? And then you have radiation following. How long is all of that going to take?
To be honest with you, I get most of the information in my head, and then it kind of gets like jumbled. So my understanding of it is I'll be in the hospital for overnight after my mastectomy, but then I should be released provided, everything goes well after that.
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
Right? I know. There's a lot of things that I didn't expect. Like, I expected to be able to walk into my first plastic surgeon appointment, and I thought she would have like a wall full of like breasts that I would be able to like play with and decide, which ones I wanted.
Well, that's what John wants.
Yeah, exactly. That would have been.
I had to miss that appointment. Yeah.
But no, they said, okay, based on your body, they actually did this cool sort of 3D workaround in my body. So it was the first time I got to see myself in 3D. It was wild. But so then they have the right implant specifically tailored for me. So I guess that's why it's all kind of clicks together. I think my surgery is going to take about 2 hours, provided everything goes well. I'll be in overnight, and then I've got follow-ups each week for a couple weeks after that. And then my understanding is that I'll be starting radiation probably 6 weeks after my surgery.
What sort of wear and tear does the radiation do on the body?
That's what I've been told to be cautious about. The biggest concern right now is how the implants are going to hold up under radiation. And I believe we went with the implants instead of the expanders because the kind of implant that I'm getting holds up better. But the danger is that it is going to scorch my skin. It's going to make my skin a lot less elastic. And because I'm coming off of chemotherapy as well, and my white blood cell count is still probably going to be pretty low, I'm susceptible to infection. So those are the things that they're going to have to worry about as I move into radiation after this.
I don't mean to be crass about this, but how is the insurance situation when you're going through a prolonged period like this? And obviously, this is a very expensive deal. I mean, nothing is inexpensive when it comes to medical treatment anymore.
Right.
Are the insurance companies working with you okay? Is that being taken care of?
They seem to be. At this point, I get insurance through United Healthcare through my employment. And it's been doing well so far. And so every time I would go in for chemo, it would come to maybe after insurance took care of it, $25 a session or something like that. And then if I added other tests and whatnot, it would add on top of that. So each week I would go in and I would see that $25 or so charge. One day I went in and it was $1,500 due before you can go back for chemo. And I was like, what? And apparently it was just some sort of a snafu. Something wasn't entered properly. So I spent, that was, a couple hours out of my day bouncing between the hospital and the insurance company. But that got worked out pretty well. So touch wood, it's good so far.
Yeah, but who needs that kind of aggravation when you've already got more than most people would ever want to or have to handle?
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't imagine not having insurance and having to deal with this.
Yep.
Oh.
And I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that are in that situation.
Yeah. Do you have any idea what it might have cost?
Oh, I would say you're probably $50,000-$60,000 deep.
Easy.
Right
Easy.
now.
Yep.
Yeah. And the surgery would be another 25-ish.
Yeah.
And then radiation is also very expensive too. So I mean, all said and done, you're looking at $100,000 bill.
Yep.
I would think,
Yeah. Well, I don't know what to say beyond saying we just wish you the very best, Jossalyn, on January 9th. But the fact that you're going to be home a day or two later is obviously very encouraging.
Yeah.
And I'm sure everything with the two and the support that you have for each other certainly going to play a big part in all of this.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to seeing you again when that part of it is over and find out how it all went. You look great.
Aw, thanks,
I
Dad.
hope that means
well, how about
something
me?
to
I'm looking
No, John,
snazzy,
you look like John. You look like John. Anyway, we wish you all the very best, and thank you for being with us and sharing this. I hope it's helpful to people who are listening. I suspect it is.
I hope so.
Thank you so much, Don.
John, thank you.
Thank you,
Great
Don.
to see you. This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio, 90.7 KWMU.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, providing more than 41,000 jobs in the production of wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details at choosewood.com.